Hello and welcome to Along the Way Life's Journey. I'm your host, Carl Buccellato. It's early in the morning on July the 4th, 2024, and the United States is just waking up to celebrate its 248th birthday. Amazing. 248 years, and we stand strong. This is an amazing country. I got up this morning before the sun came up, and I sat out by my lake and drank a cup of coffee and looked out and watched the sun rise and gave thanks for the ability to live here in a country like this wonderful world, the land that we live in. And it all started 248 years ago, as I said, when a bunch of very brave people decided that they were going to break away from England for great purpose and create a new nation. And here's what they wrote originally. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes for which impels them to the separation. And we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with a certain inalienable right, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, how many times have we heard that over our lives? Many, many times, I'm sure. And yet there are people in this country, people all over the world, who look at this magnificent method of government that we have created, that recognize the rights of individuals, and they say, no, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, they're all outdated. They should be set aside and forgotten about and recreate a new method. Well, this method has been the best known to mankind for 248 years. People from all over the world have attempted to come here because of the freedoms that it gives to each individual. See, we keep hearing people say that they want to preserve the democracy. Well, there's not a democracy in this country. It's a democratic republic. And the difference between these two are quite stark. A democracy is the rule of the majority. That means in a lynch mob, the majority rules and everyone loses, especially the guy hanging on the end of a rope. But in a democratic republic, we protect the rights of the individual. The individual's rights are sacred against those of the government. Well, we have a government in this power in this country who have decided that balance of power between the executive and the judicial system should no longer exist. So they're blending it and they're changing the laws day and night. They seem to be attacking the very value of the Constitution. We can't allow that to happen. We can't allow that to happen because if we do, the greatest nation on earth will fail. And we should protect our nation and protect the Constitution, as we say often when we give pledge to it, from enemies, both domestic and foreign. And we have domestic enemies in this country right now. I don't want to get into that too much because I usually get into that and they shut me off the air. So I'm going to try not to do that this time. I'm going to try to talk a little bit more about the United States and how this wonderful balance of power works. We do have a country where every individual has rights. We have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, what does that mean? It means we have the right to excel. We have the right to educate ourselves and pick ourselves up by our bootstrap. It means we have a right to work hard, to have freedoms, to recognize that our home is a sacred place and no government has a right to intrude on it without proper legal document and without proper legal reason. It means our speech is ours and it should be protected, and we have the right to speak freely in this country. It means that we have a right to demonstrate lawfully without endangering the lives or the circumstances of others. Those are all things that seem to be massaged into different meanings these days. We have people who think that all of those tried and true values, kind of like the scriptures, that have guided us for thousands of years through values and creations of wholeness that seem to be considered outdated. Well, the only thing that's outdated is a person's mind who can't accept and open to receive the truth. That's an outdated person. But those of us who have recognized that these things are valued also recognize that we have a tool. You have a tool. I have a tool to protect these things against all comers. And especially this year, we have a tool, a great tool, to go in November and to vote. Open our eyes and to see what's real, who's really been stripping away our rights as Americans, as individuals, and who's not been doing that. We have a lot of double talk going on. We have a lot of people who watched the debate on TV the other day and said, oh, that dismal appearance was just because the man had a cold or he had jet lag. You know better than that. You could see with your own eyes. You know that he's not capable of the job. Then the question is, who is running this government? Who is demanding things of the American people that they were not voted into power to do? They don't have those rights. They're assuming those rights. And we have the tool that says we have the right to protect ourselves against those things. The Constitution, as the Declaration of Independence that I quoted earlier, has a closing line in it. And in that closing line, let me see if I can get it to read it a moment here. It says, we therefore, the representatives of the United States of America and General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of good people of these colonies, solemnly declare that these united colonies are and right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as a free and independent state, they have a full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things in independent states have a right to do. Now, here's the part that I wanted to say. And the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance and the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor, signed by an order on behalf of the Congress. And it went on to be signed by all those present that day. And more than half of those people lost their homes and their families. The British took them away and destroyed them. More than half of those people were hung, and they were labeled traitors and treasonous. But they weren't. They were defending our rights and our liberties. And they stood and were willing to put their fortune and their lives on the line for it. What are we going to do? What are we going to do in November? Are we going to point that finger at a ballot box and vote our conscience? Or are we going to allow ourselves to be lulled into false security by this ridiculous press that tells us all these lies right in front of our eyes? I mean, they tell us things that clearly are not true. We're thinking people. What are we going to do to preserve this wonderful nation that has been sovereign for 248 years? Millions and millions of people have tried and traveled all over the world to come here legally for freedom. Are we going to strip it away because we allow a government to take it from us? I don't think so. I don't believe so. People say to me, I've had people say to me, you're a flag waver. Yes, I'm a flag waver. You'll find the flag of the United States of America hanging in front of my home every day. And why is that? Because I'm thankful for what it means. I'm thankful for the freedoms that it represents for me and for my family and the people I love. And I'm thankful for you, the American people, who won't be hoodwinked again. We will not allow this to happen to our nation again. So, that's my comment for the 4th of July. Now people will go out and they'll have meetings with families and they'll have barbecues this afternoon and they'll play together and they'll have fun together. And then tonight they will go out and they'll look up to the skies and they'll see all the fireworks blasting all over the place and they'll give pause for a moment and say, oh, isn't it beautiful? But let us remember what the fireworks represent. They represent the fact that this country had to be won. It had to be won in turmoil. It had to be won through strife. It had to be won through battle. Not only in the 1770s, when the colonial armies came out of their farms and their little places to go up against the greatest army on earth. Can you imagine that? The belief that they had such beliefs in this country that a handful of ragtag people came out to fight against the greatest army on earth. And they beat them. They beat them through faith, they beat them through determination, and they beat them through pure diligence and working together as a unit. The United States was born under all those flags and all those pennants flying high. That's what those fireworks represent tonight. Let's not forget that. So here we are, and I want to say also, this is my 100th podcast. I am happy also to be celebrating it on the 4th of July. I had intended to invite some people on to do certain things, but we'll do that on another show. I thought it was more important for me to speak about the 4th of July and our democracy, our republic, the democratic republic, I should say, because this is what's real and this is what we must preserve. So, again, I tell you always, if you like what you see and what you hear, subscribe. If you have comments, please do write in. I'm going to start something new as well. If you would like to have a comment or a question and you just don't want to be on the show for a full dialogue, but you want to be heard, videotape what you want to say and send it into our broadcast. And we'll put it on the show and have a chance for you to be seen, ask your question, and I'll answer the questions. And I think we'll get a chance for many people to be heard in this fashion. Now, we got thousands of followers now, and I hope that there will be many, many more. But I hope that people will follow and listen because I'm bringing you truth. I'm bringing truth. I don't believe in hyperbole. I don't believe in altering the truth to serve the purpose of what I want to say. There's enough truth here for me to bring without having to massage it and make it into something it's not. So I wish you all a very happy 4th of July. I hope you have great barbecues, and I hope you have wonderful opportunities to share with your family and friends. And before we close today, I want to just remember that there have been hundreds of guests on this show, and there are some of them who are senior citizens. I'm a senior citizen myself, as you know, but Tom Brokaw once wrote a book called The Late Great Generation. And it has to do with my father's generation, the people who were born, lived through the Depression, and then fought through World War II to preserve freedom for all of us. Some of those people are still here. They're in their late 90s. Some of them have gone over 100 years old already, but there are very few of them left. Some of them have been guests on this show. One or two I know quite well, and I'm so proud to have had them on this show. So I say to you all, happy birthday. Have a wonderful, prosperous life. And I remind us all to vote. The single greatest thing we can do as Americans is to vote. God bless you. And as I say every day, especially today, get somebody you know, grab them in a big bear hug, tell them you love them. Tell them you love them. It may be the only time they hear those words. I'm quite sure God loves them. God bless you all. Have a wonderful 4th of July.